So, a lot of y'all been waiting all day for me to get on the air because your boy was at the joint practices today. And I'm going to do something that is on some level counterintuitive, which I'm going to start with something that I think people are making too much of because it's what everyone's talking about, but then I don't want to dwell on it. So I'm just going to, I try to operate as a first things first. Like, let's talk about the important stuff. And if there's something else, like, we can address it later. But everyone wants to talk about the fights and the skirmishes. So I kind of just want to get it out of the way. So I'm going to say what I'm going to say about it. And we'll talk about all the other notes that I have in my, what looks like a crazy person's jotting of things that I've migrated from my cell phone where I took my notes into the rundown. The skirmishes happen because the Ravens practice very physically and I think multiple times crossed lines of professionalism. There, I said it. The Baltimore Ravens, the model franchise, the one that everyone looks to and the one that has been successful and the one that in many ways I wish this organization had been like more and still in some ways feel like they should be like more. This organization, of course, being the Commanders. They're the ones that cross the line. And it's that simple. They, on multiple occasions today, did things that, if you do them on a football field, are going to start a fight. And it's not the Commanders being soft. It's not that the Commanders didn't match their physicality between the whistles. It's not that, within the context of a practice, that the Commanders didn't look like they could compete from functional to physical to mental to anything, which is great news. When it comes to the actual fights, I thought all three skirmish, dust-up type of things, one on the offensive side, which didn't really amount to anything, and the two where punches were thrown on the defensive side of the ball, Commanders' defense, were the Ravens' fault. On the offensive side, which is the side that I was watching at the time, and it's weird because they all happened within about, 90 seconds of each other. There was the Emmanuel Forbes dust-up on what to me was the far field. On the near field, then there's a late hit out of bounds on Cole Turner. Terry McLaurin gets in the defender's face. There's some quick yelling, some shoving, but no punches thrown, nothing major. And Ron Rivera actually gave credit to the Ravens afterwards for, their guys came off their sideline instead of to start a melee, but to break it up and say, hey, let's keep it going. Or let's, keep things going. There were no other issues on those sides of the field. Then you look back up again, and there's a big hullabaloo on the far side, and that's the one where Mark Andrews body slammed Danny Johnson, and then Efe Obada came in and had a word with his fists. You'll hear from Efe Obada, his mouth, in just a moment. But it's simple. Like, Emmanuel Forbes made a play. Was trying to make a play on the ball. Typical, try to punch it out stuff. It's aggravating, but, it's part of training camp. And the Ravens receiver took exception and punched Emmanuel Forbes, and Emmanuel Forbes reacted. That's why that fight started, because the Ravens dude did something unprofessional first. He threw a punch, and Emmanuel Forbes... By the way, Anthony, we were talking about this before the show. Would you rather punch in the face / get punched in the face in a football helmet or slap somebody? I would much rather slap somebody in a football helmet, not just like a firm open hand, right? Slap is a different connotation to it. I'd rather open hand someone if they've got a helmet on because I'm less likely to break my hand. And that's what Emmanuel Forbes did. Again, that's an intelligent guy. Which one would you go with?
I would probably go with the open hand as well.
Yeah, it's just you can't be risking breaking your hand by punching a dude who's wearing a football helmet. Idiots. Which the Ravens guy, I'm pretty sure, did do that. The correct answer, by the way, is we don't do that. We're professionals. We're here to play. But that's it. That's what happened in the skirmishes. And then the second one, Danny Johnson. Look, is it a kind of a tough hit for a practice setting? Yes, but he ultimately jars the ball loose and goes and picks it up. And Mark Andrews, instead of just being like that was an incompletion or like the ball's live and wrapping him up and being like, okay, if you want to play through the whistle and you want to do that, I'm going to keep playing. He goes and, it's been called a body slam. It was a tackle. It was a football tackle. It's not like, I don't know if people want to say it's a suplex. It's this. If that happened in an NFL game between the whistles, nobody would be like, oh, that was a dirty tackle. But it wasn't an NFL game. It was an NFL practice. And you don't tackle in practice. And you definitely don't tackle after the whistle in practice. And so Mark Andrews tackles Danny Johnson. People mostly handle it well. But this happens 30 seconds after a Ravens player takes what I think is a pretty cheap shot at Emmanuel Forbes. And Efe Obada had enough. And so Efe comes in and he waylays Mark Andrews. And then for a very short time, it is on. And that's how it went down. From there, John Harbaugh calls Ron Rivera over. And by the way, this was all happening on the field that Harbaugh was manning. Like the head coaches each had a field. If you've never been to a training camp practice or an NFL practice, the head coach is the one that ends the play with a whistle. It's like, okay, play's over. You talk about playing to the whistle. Obviously, when in the game, that's the officials. There were referees there, but it's really the head coach in practice who kind of dictates when things are over. And these both happen on Harbaugh's, these big ones happen on Harbaugh's field. And so he brings Ron over. That's not me indicting Harbaugh. It's not his fault, by the way. But he brings Ron over. And Ron's message was simple. Like, we are here to get better and work together as a team. And as teams, we are here to practice. Quit taking everything personally. If someone does something to you and makes a play on you, okay, get to the next one. Quit doing this stuff. And as Efe Obada said afterwards, it comes down to the fact that one team today, on a couple of instances, and this is not me side-swiping the Ravens, it's not me painting the Ravens as dirty. Like, they are physical. They practice very physically, and they push things right to the line. And when you consistently push things to the line, sometimes you're going to cross it. Anthony, you might even say the Ravens are some habitual line steppers.
Yes, they are.
And that's what happened today. Here was Efe Obada after practice.
I think temper's running wild. A lot of people don't know how to keep it professional. But ultimately, we're here to try and get better, try and get new looks, go against each other, and just develop as a team.
That's it. Some people couldn't keep it professional. It's not even all the Ravens. It was a couple guys. You think Mark Andrews would know better in year whatever he is in the league. But he didn't. He did something dumb, and Efe was like, no, we're not doing this. And it's a fine line between, by the way, that sounded an interview with Darren Haynes. By the way, congrats to Darren today. I think it's his second to last day on the job at WUSA 9. I think he's technically working tomorrow before he heads out to LA. So good to see Darren out there today and get to say bye to him before he heads out on his journey. And thanks, Darren, for doing your job today and getting that interview with Efe. But there's a fine line once the other team crosses that line. What do you do? And I think I'm also okay if I'm Ron Rivera with Terry stepping up on the offensive side and with Efe stepping up on the defensive side and others that did and not getting punked. Like, okay, if this is how you want to do it, like, we're going to play. You want to do this. Now, I think if you're Ron, you probably go to Efe and be like, or you go to Efe and you're like, dude, don't swing. Come in, say your piece, but please don't punch anybody. But at the end of the day, you don't want to reward their aggression by starting a melee, but you also don't want to get punked. And it's a fine line. I don't know what the magic formula is, but I think the Commanders overall did a good job today. And if you want to talk about the brawls, I'm going to be very unequivocal in the way that I say this. And again, like, sorry, Ravens, but everything that happened today that was extracurricular was the Ravens' fault. It just was. Tomorrow, it could flip. It's not me saying John Harbaugh needs to be fired or the Ravens are dirty or anything like that. Just the facts are the facts, and on the sample size of today, the Ravens were the ones at fault. So, now that we've gotten that out of the way, the football. We'll talk about it next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. How'd they look? Always live as well on the free Odyssey app.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.